All right, and we are live. So first off, thank you guys for being here. We're going to wait a couple minutes before I get into the actual introductions, the actual welcome, until people start popping into the group. But for the record, thank you so much for being here, for doing this. I can't wait to hear the information that you guys have to share with us tonight. It's going to be really, really cool. So thank you for doing that. We are just about at the top of the hour, so if you haven't already, grab a drink, whatever it is, so that you're ready to go. We're going to have a very compact session tonight. We're only going to have about an hour for questions and answers that are prepared for this interview, and then about a half hour for questions from the audience. So I encourage anyone watching live to go ahead and submit questions via the chat roll that you see at the side of your screen. And while we're getting started here, I do want to mention that anything that is said on this call that you think is worth tweeting about, worth mentioning on social media, go ahead and use hashtag Vocal Music Summit, and that way we can have a collective of everything that came out of here. So we just started having people log in live now, so welcome to you that are logging in. I'm so glad that you are here, and we're going to go ahead and dive right in because we're on a limited clock here. So I am Ben Harding. I'm a singing coach and an avid barbershopper, and we are here today to celebrate World Voice Day. Now, this is a little-known holiday that's an international effort to encourage people to use their voices speaking and singing for the good of others. Now, tonight what we're going to do is talk about how the barbershop harmony world aligns with that idea. So as we go out tonight, you're going to see a theme about what's happening in various barbershop organizations, how they're working toward encouraging singing, both inside and outside of barbershop, as well as what they're doing and what they're hoping to get in the future to encourage people to sing and spread this wonderful art form around the world. I would like to welcome the guests that we have here tonight. First, we have Marty Monson. He's the CEO of the Barbershop Harmony Society. And Marty, thank you for being here tonight. We also have Royce Ferguson. He is a chorus development and singing expert. He's in the leadership of chorus development out in the far western district of the Barbershop Harmony Society and a brilliant singer to boot. We have Sid Libsack here, who is the president of the Association of International Champions. I'm really looking forward to hearing how they're working with all the other barbershop organizations toward these goals. We also have Marty Lovick, who is a past presentation category specialist for the Barbershop Harmony Society. So we're going to talk with him about the visual aspect of performance, how the visual affects singing, and how it's an important part of any effective performance. Also have Kevin Keller, who is the current contest and judging chair for the BHS, incredibly talented arranger and all-around just very, very brilliant man. I'm so thrilled to have him here. And last, certainly not least, we have KJ McAleesejergins, who is the regional director for Harmony Foundation International, a charitable organization that uses its funds to encourage youth through adult to sing, primarily in barbershop, but all sorts of genres all around the world. So thank you to all of you for being here, and also thank you to our guest interviewer, Toby Shaver. Toby is the host of a podcast called Gold Medal Moments, and I encourage you to check it out after this call. But he spends a lot of time interviewing some of the greatest barbershoppers on the planet and just learn some great stories from them. So I'm thrilled to have Toby on this call, and one more time, thank you to all of you. And Toby, go ahead and take it away. Let's get into some of these questions that we have for our panel today.
All right, thanks, Ben, and thanks for putting this all together and for including me in the process. Happy to be here. So we got a lot of stuff we want to cover and a short time to do it, so let's just get after it. We're going to start with Marty Monson, our CEO of Barbershop Harmony Society, and Marty's a past guest on the show too, so we dug into a lot of the work that he's doing down there with his team. But talk to our audience here, Marty. You guys have been doing a lot of great work with other organizations, other singing organizations and music organizations around the world, ACDA, groups like that, about kind of collaborating, in our mutual efforts to spread singing around the world. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on right now, what you're excited about, and kind of what we have to look forward to, and what you guys at the BHS hope to accomplish with this to move Barbershop forward.
Well, we're coming off the national convention for ACDA that was in Salt Lake City, where we had a wonderful presence and had we doubled, tripled, quadrupled our reading sessions and all that as it relates to music educators, and did a collaboration with Crossroads and the Fairfield Four, the Grammy-winning Southern Gospel Quartet that we did, and it really kind of panned out of the whole roots of Barbershop. And but we take that and we've expanded into other collaborative efforts and partnerships. National Association for Music Educators. I've spent some time in DC and continue to work that angle. And of course that organization is a all-inclusive music organization of music educators, but we're obviously tying and collaborating with them in the vocal area. And so we have a huge project with them that we are in the midst of terms and agreements on how we are going to collaborate with them on their conventions, some curriculum development, and that organization is a very grassroots organization. It's a K-12 kind of focus from that standpoint. Our Canadian brothers up in Canada, the Coalition for Music Education in Canada, and Holly Nimmons, in that organization. She was our MC when we were in Toronto for the Collegiate Quartet competition, and we're continuing our efforts there. And of course they have their Music Monday, that is the first Monday in May, through kind of similar kind of project as this, is getting people out on Music Monday of all musical, but of course for us it's about singing and getting more people singing. Chorus America, another strong singing entity that has a lot of similarities, and we're collaborating with them on various operational pieces and efforts to drive more of that. And the list goes on and on. Some unique ones like Library of Congress and our archives of all of our media, to the National Museum for African American Music, and the Association of Performing Arts Presenters, which is another collaborative effort for us to go out and perform in concert series around the country, and take our art form and our groups and getting them into non-barbershop audiences to spread and expand from that area, and awareness and improve awareness. So there's so many areas that, again, the focus of Harmony Hall is to market and improve the awareness and expansion of people singing, especially the advocacy of how singing is beneficial to our communities. And so those are just a few. There's a lot more that is happening and developing, but it's exciting. It's really exciting. The great thing is, usually when we go and meet with these people, they want to do all the things we come to them about, and so we don't see a lot of resistance. It's like, wow, we love what you're doing. We want to associate.
What is it about barbershoppers and barbershopping that we have to offer these other groups? What's great about what we're doing that they can benefit from and take an example from?
Well, it's the capacity. Our members take discretionary time and income to participate, not in just a hobby, but this is a serious hobby. I mean, spending 10 hours a week on average based on hours, that's unheard of. It's grassroots efforts that these people really believe in lifelong singing, and how we are actually demonstrating for 77 years as of last Saturday the abilities to go out and sing and demonstrate to people how we are better men in our communities, how we're better fathers, grandfathers, sons, etc., etc., husbands, all these types of things. It is just, they see us as such a positive influence into so many areas that we don't see a lot of resistance. And we have the longevity to prove it. Some people might think that 22,000, yeah, we were up to 35,000 members at a time, but 22,000 might be a small number. Well, it is smaller than where we were. But in the eyes of a lot of these external partners, it's a huge entity. We're a huge entity of encouragement to support them, to support us, and all of those kind of collaborative efforts. You put all of these organizations together and you think about what we're doing tonight about a voice towards singing, and maybe it's over 100,000 people who have a vested interest in this, just in North America alone. That's why they are interested.
Yeah, and we've had some great opportunities lately to get Barbershop in the national spotlight. You mentioned Crossroads just being, another national TV hit, and that's been great. Let's talk a little bit about how kind of that a cappella music wave, the resurgence of that, how Barbershop's fitting into that. We'll go over to Kevin Keller. We've seen a lot of changes in the style, the barbershop style. It's always kind of that ongoing debate amongst barbershoppers, about how much we need to evolve, but still keep our roots, keep it pure to barbershop. Tell us about what's happening, in kind of the music and arranging field that's helping us to adapt and maybe be more marketable and appealing to the non-barbershopper.
Sure. So one of the struggles that we've always had prior to the society's existence, there was no definition of barbershop. So as you listen to different quartet recordings around the country, they were all very different. Their interpretations of what the barbershop style was. As our society evolved and we started, in other words, norming towards a particular belief in what our style was, when we heard things that we didn't necessarily like, we started trying to create rules to outlaw that. And we kept doing that and kept doing that and kept doing that, and we made the style fairly narrow. And so back in the early 90s, we changed our approach to the judging system in and of itself, where it was no longer a penalistic type style, but it was embracing the different aspects of barbershop harmony and how it could be expressed, not only through the music itself, but also through the performance as well as the singing styles. So what we're hearing is now a natural evolution where quartets and choruses are listening to music of today and things that are appealing and saying, how can the barbershop style be applied to that? Some experiments work great, some don't work so well, but predominantly, if the melody is in second tenor, meaning it's in the middle, there's a tenor harmonizing above, pretty much we're singing the same sounds together with embellishments, of course, and then that's pretty much barbershop. I mean, we have major triads and barbershop sevenths, which characterize our style, but we really go for lock and ring. As long as the chords are locking and ringing, it's barbershop. And so we're seeing all sorts of different explorations, which is the heart of barbershop. Barbershop is a harmony exploration style at its very essence.
So, with the efforts to preserve the style, we have this contest and judging system, which is, kind of a unique situation. If you looked at a lot of other musical styles, they may, in theory, want to try to preserve that and keep that alive, but they don't necessarily have an actual contest system that supports that. How is that system evolving to still, like we say, preserve, but still allow for these quartets to, take some chances?
Right. So we, in past judging systems, it was based on penalties, where if you did something that wasn't deemed stylistic, you would receive some sort of reduction. And that occurred not only in the music, but also in the visual presentation. When we changed categories 20 years ago, we went for a much more holistic, where we weren't going to outlaw anything, but it was, does it work in the barbershop style or not? So one quartet might choose to do something, it works. Another quartet could do that same thing, but in that context, it doesn't work. And that's confusing for our audience members, but we've grown accustomed to understanding that everything is in context, and if it works in the barbershop style, then it does.
And then that kind of leads us, let's talk to Marty Lovick for a second. Now, you're a presentation specialist, and that's another unique thing about how we as barbershoppers put ourselves out there in the public and how we judge our performances is through presentation. What is it about the way we as barbershoppers, quartets and choruses, present our music that gives it the emotional impact that we all know so well?
Well, picking up on what Kevin just talked about, I joined in 1965. I'm the old timer on the panel, I guess. And even in those days, what it looked like and how it felt was extremely tied in with what we called the barbershop style. Now, if we look at other kinds of singing performance of reaching an audience, we don't see the patterned, mannered kind of don't you get it, folks idea. Audiences are not stupid. And if we tell them this is what barbershop is, then they'll say that's barbershop. But if we look at other kinds of singing styles where people really feel touched and really feel acknowledged by the performer and feel part of a greater whole, then they find those to be thrilling and enthralling performances. And the fact is that the singers now, our performers, are leading the way. They're saying we want to have that kind of impact, that holistic big world impact on audiences, and that shouldn't challenge the style in terms of the musical style, but it's probably more representative of the kind of songs we're now singing, whether they be jazz or pop or swing or the variety that is now put before us. I think that that's what's touching audiences more, and that's what performers want to do, and that is, I believe, the biggest change is it's no longer a silo of visual and interpretive and sound. It's more real world, in my opinion.
Because there was a time when a lot of people would think of the presentation category as your visual plan, but obviously it's a lot more than that. It's the entire package and how that performance affects the audience members on an emotional level. What is it? We see the sound of quartets and choruses evolve so much. We still kind of present ourselves the same way visually. It's always very awkward when you see a quartet, unless it's the Suntones, standing with hand microphones, but we see all this other a cappella music where it's presented in a much different fashion. What's great about how we do it, and what can we learn from the other styles in the a cappella world?
I think what's great about when we look at, for example, our choruses, the way the choruses have learned to be exciting and thrilling, yet still sing well, not get themselves into awkward, weird configurations of where precision is so important, execution, that it starts to be problematic for them to really be entertaining and to enjoy it. I think that we've also grown. I mean, the society has grown organically in terms of our music and our performance, and our best groups understand that, and our best groups understand that it's not about them. It is really about the music and the audience and the experience that audience doesn't get. So when we present unity, real world, and we're on a stage, most people don't see live performance of any kind these days. It's not that common anymore. Certainly in the schools we're having problems. So first of all, the excitement we generate, because our people love, the men and women who sing barbershop love to sing it, and that comes across to the audience. And when you start to add in skill and unity and all the technical stuff to support a performance, audiences just love it. And I think that there's a back and forth of energy that is I haven't been able to find almost anywhere else. Otherwise, probably I'd be doing something different. Maybe we all would be.
You know, one of the great things about the Barbershop Harmony Society and barbershoppers is with this evolution in our style, we've also evolved as a group to some of just the finest singers in the world. Our education programs are fantastic. Our courses are getting amazing. Let's talk to Royce for a second about our choruses in barbershop right now. In the last decade or so in particular, small choruses and the level of singing with even a smaller chorus has dramatically increased. You see groups like Westminster, Kentucky Vocal Union, making a huge splash in international competition. What is it about the way we've evolved as singers that's helping that to happen, and not the old days where the giant choruses were the only ones that could really excel in competition?
Well, the first thing I should say is that you know, we would have loved to have been a large chorus in Westminster. You know, I think that you know, we had the 10-year anniversary show. We had 90-plus singers, and that was quite a thrilling sound. I think that Westminster, in that particular case, you know, there's kind of the thought, well, these are all hand-picked guys, and that we whittled things down to that point. When really, you know, when I first showed up, we were lucky to get 12 guys or so, you know, if that. In fact, I remember showing up for my first retreat, and I'm all excited about being the director, and I show up, and literally no one's there. You know, and then 15 minutes go by, and finally a car pulls up, guy comes in the Taco Bell bags, and hey, here we are. And so it was a matter of starting very small in that group. And so it just kind of evolved naturally into then just being kind of like a big quartet. I think one of the biggest things that was successful with Westminster is that no one was anonymous. No one was just, hey, I'm a back row guy, or I'm this. It was everyone, all hands on deck, in terms of just what's possible in the communication of what this composer really meant, or what this lyricist meant. So then, as Marty was mentioning, then it's about, you know, in barbershop, what's so special about it is it's a very conversational style. People don't want to know about the technique. They don't want to know, oh, well, they've really trained very hard on these particular things. All of that, you've got to hide the technique. So it was really a matter of, you know, obviously technique was a core of it, but then you want to bridge beyond that into really communicating in a real way as a real person that's compelling. And as Marty mentioned, you know, that's where we all really want to strive for. An interesting thing that happened vocally with the group was, again, it was about building on success. I was lucky if I had 4 parts when we first were getting together. And then there were guys that were just catalysts for bringing other guys in. You know, Sean Devine, Russ Squires was super driven, Sean York was like a big marketing guy. And, you know, the idea was, once it kind of caught fire, and of course having these quartet guys, was that then, rather than having those guys be the superstars, it was about equal contribution from everybody. Everyone was important. And I think in that way, then we always left room for someone else to be in the group, both in terms of our personality and in terms of our sound. That said, someone would come in and they go, wow, there's room for me to be a part of that. So again, we just kind of took from there, and Justin's continued that on remarkably well as Patrick Claypool and others who've done great work there with Westminster.
Yeah, and Westminster is a great example of, you know, back when you guys first started that, the youth harmony movement, you know, was definitely not where it is today. It was more of an anomaly out there at that time, but now with all the programs from Harmony Foundation and everyone else involved, the youth explosion is great. So let's talk to KJ for a minute about that. You know, your team, KJ, has been so successful in putting together these youth programs around the country and around the world. You know, what kind of impact are we seeing now in the BHS and in spreading barbershop? You know, are we seeing some results on a national level, you know, that's resulting in more membership? Have we been able to track that yet, or is it still kind of early in the game with some of that stuff?
Well, I think the most important thing to start off with is to say that, you know, the foundation several years ago, many years ago, I would say 7, 8 years ago, when we really started focusing our efforts really into youth and harmony and youth outreach and these youth programs. You know, I mentioned it like this at this last convention. It was like the Harmony Foundation was this Corvette engine inside of a Volkswagen chassis. at that point. We had all these ideas and visions, and we knew that if we could just get this youth movement going and going and going, that it would pay off well into the future and here currently. And the society was, at that point, struggling to keep up with what we wanted to make happen, and all the vision we wanted cast and programs we wanted at our fingertips to raise money for. And and I can honestly say that when Marty took over the society and cast this vision that was bigger than any of us had thought until then, the roles really reversed. Today the society is well ahead of where we are as far as vision and program. There are more programs and more ideas and more opportunities now than the foundation has the ability to keep up with, which is a great problem to have. So we're having to run faster and work harder, and our members are having to step up, and more people are having to come to the table to make sure that we don't miss these opportunities, because the reality is yes, that is happening. Barbershop and the society is having a greater impact today than we've ever had in the history of the Barbershop Harmony Society. We have more partnerships with outside choral organizations, more resources that we're providing to music educators and students all over the country, and it's spreading like wildfire. So, when we look out and see these programs growing and growing and busting at the seams, and more ideas about how to reach out to more people in different age groups, and it's incredibly exciting as a foundation who's tasked with the job of raising the money to make that happen. So, the answer is yes, it is happening. We are having an incredible impact in our communities now, and so much so that the acapella craze that has really taken over high school and middle school and college over the last several years with shows like the Sing Off and Glee, and it's really created an incredible atmosphere to breed love of singing, and we just need to be able to capitalize on that, because kids love to sing, and they love to sing barbershop, and as much modern acapella that's out there, Pentatonics and Home Free and all these great acapella groups that are coming out of these shows. Kids love to sing the old barbershop songs just as much. They love locking and ringing a chord. They love to hear an overtone. So, we have so much to offer in so many different areas, and I think we are on such a good path and a good trajectory. It's just a matter of, are we going to be able to keep up with the demand, and that's where we come in, hopefully.
Yeah, one of the things I always think about when I see the other styles of a cappella out there that get the attention towards a cappella, but one thing as barbershoppers that we have is we're out there teaching them tags. That's we have an army that we can deploy out there to actually get these kids singing, and I think that makes a big difference as well. And now, Sid, you are the president of the Association of International Champions, and now that's a group that a lot of us as barbershoppers, we know that that's a fine group of singers and guys that I would be happy to have in my next quartet. Any one of you, just call me. You know where to find me. But we don't all know what your mission is and what you guys are doing in line with the BHS to help spread the barbershop love. So tell us a little bit about what you guys are working on.
Sure. Well, if you're interested in a quartet, I'll give you a call after this webinar, because I'm looking to dump mine actually. So, I guess here's what I would say is everything that everybody has said so far, there's nothing different about our mission. Truthfully, all of the things that Marty and Kevin, everybody, the things that they are most interested in supporting, that's what we're interested in supporting. And it all really boils down to, that's how we got in. We were fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time with the right other three guys that had an insane level of passion for all of this stuff that everybody's talking about, right? There's a magical sauce that has to come together for that to happen, and we're blessed to do that, and the fraternity that comes from that is really important to us, and we like to protect that. But way more important than that is how did we get there? And it's all these things that KJ is talking about. How do we get this out into the youth? I'll share for me personally, and I know my story is way more than the majority of all the guys in the AIC. Is we started because some guy in some hallway pulled us aside and taught us a tag. That's how it happened. That's how it happened for me. My dad was a barbershopper. My grandfather was a barbershopper, and all that stuff. The way all of that happens, it ultimately boils down to the things that these guys are talking about, and how do we make sure that is sustainable, and how do we contribute to that? And so some of the things the AIC does, we have a handful of things that we've done for a long time. Like many people have probably seen our quartets at various different harmony explosion camps and youth festivals and those types of things. Quartets like Crossroads being on Fox News, right? We're blessed to have those types of opportunities to go do great stuff like that in hopes of spreading the goodwill and the good cheer that comes from VHS. At the conventions, we always put on an annual show that features several different quartets that have won in the past. We do a Sing with the Champs event, all of this stuff. And so we do a handful of those things already and have done a lot of them for a long time. But I couldn't be more excited now about some of the stuff that Marty Monson is talking about, the conversations that he is having, not just with the AIC, but all the stuff he's talking about with ACDA and others. The AIC wants to be a part of that conversation. And the way we want to be a part of that conversation is in a way that we want to add tailwind to what VHS is doing. Because at the end of the day, that's how we got where we are and why we are where we are. So, if I was to say what's our mission and what do we stand for, we want to protect and provide the same type of opportunities that we had, like standing in a hallway and singing a tag, and performance, entertainment, music, and fraternity. This fraternity family thing is I've never been a part of anything like it, anything else in my life. The number of friends that I have across the country and across the world as a result of Barbershop, that opportunity is not provided to a lot of people, and you don't have to be an AIC quartet to get that. You can go to any convention, and the following year you're going to have 22,000 friends, right? I mean, it's just the way that whole thing works. So that's what we're about. That's what we want to do. We want to do whatever we can to be the best ambassadors possible, to add tailwind to what Marty's doing, to what KJ's doing, and the rest of the Harmony Foundation, all of that stuff. So that's probably more than you asked for.
So it's World Voice Day now, so I definitely want to talk about what we're doing in all of these organizations, Harmony Foundation, AIC, and of course BHS, to spread barbershop around the world. I mean, that's been something that's come on super strong in the last decade. We now even have 2 AIC quartets that are from our affiliate organizations. So, Marty, what's happening right now in our affiliate organizations, how we're working with those groups to help them grow, and maybe some other areas where we're looking to develop more affiliates?
Well, what's happening is, 40 years ago, the British Association of Barbershop Singers began. As the first affiliate. And of course, that's 40 years, and look what they've done. They're nearly 2,500 members. They're very active, something like 64 clubs. They have really become their own. They've kind of grown up. And then we've got organizations such as SPATS down in South America that is still kind of struggling to kind of get going. The World Harmony Council, for many people don't know that there is a consortium of sorts of all the barbershop entities around the world, and that is called the World Harmony Council. And we meet annually at our international convention, and that consists of about 15 different barbershop organizations, all of our affiliates, but then Sweet Adelines, Harmony Incorporated, etc., etc. Ladies Association of Barbershop Singers. And what's fascinating is about a year ago we decided to take some of the proceeds from the World Harmony Jamboree and offer grants to growing barbershop and other nationalities and other cultures. As a result of that, team there has identified we are now almost to 20 countries where there's some form of quartetting or chorus or barbershop activity going on that we're starting to cultivate again. Going back to 40 years ago where it was a bigger effort. And it's really exciting. Just this week alone, we had an inquiry from Poland and Philippines. Just this week. And it's so exciting. You know, it's amazing what social media is doing. It's amazing what YouTube is doing. And it's really exciting. However, I'll say one other thing. You know, I'll refer back to our American roots. We can't forget about all the cultures here in America. And we have a lot of work to do just in our own backyard when it provides opportunity for the Hispanic cultures, the Asian cultures, the African American cultures to embrace our music just as much as we do in cultures outside of North America. And those are also opportunities. And I'm excited about those opportunities just as much as our global expansion. But I envision a day where our international competition, I sometimes use this analogy and people chuckle, but you know, it's kind of like the Miss Universe contest. Now, we don't have the looks by any means, but to have 30 or 40 countries represented singing barbershop at our international convention, I can see that happen someday. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it can happen. It's a wonderful art form in the music and celebration, and it's going to happen at some point.
And speaking of that reach that's kind of global, I want to talk to Royce again about Westminster. You know, that's a chorus that has had some success outside of barbershop and definitely outside of the United States, winning the Choir of the World competition. Now, were you part of the group there? Were you there for that competition?
I was involved as a coach, but Justin took them to the Choir of the World.
Okay. When you were there, when the chorus was there, what was the reaction that you got from these other singers around the world? You know, maybe, I'm assuming many of whom had never heard barbershop before, you know, outside of maybe I guess there's a barbershop category in that competition, but a lot of those singers probably had never been exposed to barbershop. You know, what's the reaction like to a barbershop chorus when we go over there outside of a barbershop contest?
You know, it's pretty neat that good singing is good singing, and it really translates. It translates as a real art form, just as many other folk styles, essentially. And again, it's a very real style that bridges beyond technique. So all of that's really very accessible, which I think makes it very compelling across the world. In terms of how Westminster kind of got started with that, it was really kind of a fluke in which a few of us were really inspired by Chanticleer, a 12-man ensemble that's a classical group that actually now we have one of the guys, former guys in Westminster, Corey, is now a member of Chanticleer. Kind of interesting how things come around again. And so we started singing. Ave Maria was the first classical piece that we did. And there were some guys who had come from choral backgrounds. And the idea was, because we were a smaller group, as though we had to find ways of singing beyond ourselves, singing beyond just notes and vowels, singing beyond technique, so that we could sing in a way that was more bigger than the individuals, essentially. So by opening up the voices with that kind of a piece, it really just kind of helped then translate it perfectly to then our barbershop pieces being that much more compelling and interesting and enlivened sonically. So that's kind of how it all started, and then of course it got out of hand from there, and it's been a great ride for those guys for sure.
So with barbershop, you know, I think it's fair to say that our vocal technique has evolved quite a bit in the last couple decades. You know, how is that translating to the overall quartet sound? You know, what are we doing right? You know, what are some opportunities or some pitfalls that a lot of quartets are still having now that we can avoid? But what vocally, you know, are we doing that's making everything just sound so awesome these days and keeps getting better?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We have some of the greatest educators in the world that are a part of our Barbershop Harmony Society. I mean, I think, you know, Dr. Greg Line was such an influence for me, both in terms of the musicality of things, in terms of directing, in terms of empowering others to experience this as a quartet and as well as with the chorus. And most of the time it's about finding enough technique to accomplish the goal of singing the right, words and notes, and then somehow then bridging that to being real. I think sometimes some of the pitfalls, sometimes we get so caught up in, for example, a great technique. Okay, white mouth shapes would be one of those things, for example, which helps promote kind of the more enlivened, lifted voice, lowering of larynx by getting the mouth shape. And then some guys would take that to extreme and to where they're just singing with a kind of a heavy tension in the lips. So the idea is to utilize the technique and then find that tipping point and then say, okay, now be a real person and deliver this message. Honor that composer, honor the music that we love so much. I think the more that's closer to our humanity, the more that audiences will appreciate it. Beyond our own insular kind of boundaries, as it were.
And I guess this one's kind of for Marty and Kevin being our judges on the panel here. How with our groups these days, now we have these super high-level singing small choruses. We still have the huge super choruses. How does our contest and judging panel judge a contest with such a wide variety of styles, vocal techniques, and just size of these groups? How do you judge these groups apples to apples?
Well, certainly. Oh, go ahead, Marty.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that when we judge each performance, the performers tell us what their vision is. They show us their vision. And I believe it's our job to evaluate the degree to which they're able to make that come to life holistically and as performed by all the categories are looking at that. So there are numerous ways that a small unit can use certain singing techniques to do certain things that you wouldn't see happening in a big chorus. Certain things a big chorus can do visually that a smaller one can't because they'll lose breath support, for example, and stuff like that. So I think overall, it's actually a bonus for us as judges to be able to sit down and see a whole bunch of different ways to achieve scores. And one of our little rules of thumb is there's many ways to get to a 64. There's not so many ways to get to a 94. And go ahead, Kevin.
And I think Marty hit it on the head. We don't judge on I like it or I didn't like that. That's not part of the judging program. What is part of the judging program is we receive the information that the quartet or chorus provides us, and we are truly judging on the execution of that vision that they have, both from a vocal as well as a visual perspective. So from that perspective, we're judging degree of execution, which becomes a much easier scale to judge different groups on.
Where do you guys see that program evolving, say, over the next 10 years? Because obviously everything's constantly changing. Where do you see it going?
Well, our biggest, we've made a lot of changes over the past 70 years, 75 years, where we've had a judging program, and every judging program has lasted about a generation. And the success of this current program, we started in 1993, so we're now past a generation, we're in its 22nd year, is that this system, above all the others, has been able to evolve as our performers have evolved, whereas other systems weren't able to do that as well. So we are finding, if you look back at how we evaluated music and how we evaluated presentation, how we evaluated singing 10, 15 years ago is very different than what we do today. So even though we have the same construct, we're not at the same place that we were. So our system is highly robust. Where our biggest threat is more in the economics, the pure economics of sending judges out to a contest, where we built the judging system for a society membership that was 22 years ago, and as Marty Monson mentioned early on, our numbers are down. So we are constantly looking at how do we evolve the judging program such that we can still deliver the same quality that we have always done, if not better, but yet somehow manage the financial aspects that are being imposed upon all of us. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So
also,
is there talk about that? Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
Just going to say that where I see it going is we need to have a higher expectation, and we do within the judging cadre. We need to up our game in terms of our ability to assess, to teach, to those teachable moments, those 20-minute evaluations, to be able to give performers not just a concept of why they got a 68, but what does a 78 look like? And that our expectation of our people coming into the category, I think, has to improve and get a higher level and continuing to get higher, because the performers are leading the way. That's what they're doing, and I think we have a responsibility to do that as well.
Yep, absolutely. And to Marty's point, we have many systems in place to make sure that our judges are meeting that expectation and that need. So, good point, Marty.
Let me put this one out really to anybody in the group who would like to field it, but just playing devil's advocate, what would you say to the critic that says maybe we focus too much on our judging program, and what would our growth in singing be like if we didn't have a contest and judging system at all? Would we be able to improve our style and our level of performance the way we have?
Well, I could jump in here just as a competitor. I'm not a judge, but I think that there's a certain validation that can occur with singers that's so valuable, as well as what Marty was mentioning in terms of teachable moments. You know, what the judging community brings to the organization in terms of these really wonderful coaches, and they happen to put down a number as well. That's it's a valuable thing, and I think that there's less of of them having the pulse of the rigid rules, which I think is okay too, because right now I think it's okay to kind of be thinking in terms of abundance, in terms of bringing people in, and kind of creating an ecosystem in our own communities that's broader, not just for youth, not just for all ages, and men and women to be part of singing. And once we do that, then some of these great organizations that we admire didn't happen in a vacuum. It was a matter of the ecosystem was there. Westminster's a perfect example of that. It took the Masters of Harmony, it took them doing youth harmony camps, all the great work the Harmony Foundation is doing. All these things are key right where our communities are, so that we can continue to have this flourish. And so I think the judging community is a big part of that.
If I were going to play devil's advocate on the judging community itself, if you look at other musical art forms, they have no judging system. They have no competition. So how do musicians become great? They listen to other great musicians. So I believe that our top quartets and our top choruses would be probably as good if there was a forum for their music, with or without the judging program. Where I think the judging program serves our barbershop communities the best is at the average level and slightly above average level, because I think if you go down to other musical art forms, yes, there are community orchestras, and yes, there are community choirs, but I would put up our barbershop groups over those other groups in terms of better singing, better visual engagement, better musicality, and that's where I think the secret of the judging program lies.
Yeah, they say what gets measured gets improved. So if we have some way to benchmark that, even if it's just once a year, at least we know what to work on, right?
But I think
sorry, I was going to add one thing to that. I think both as competitors and as participants, whether it be audience or otherwise, I think there's an element of that competition and that passion and that excitement. I think there's some adrenaline that comes with that. Definitely as competitors, but even as viewers, as much as I love watching football every Sunday, it's still not the same as the playoffs. So I think some of that excitement, I think I speak for others when both as a competitor and as a participant. It's just a fun atmosphere to be around. It's not for everybody, but I think it's a compelling atmosphere to be around as well.
And are there any programs in place? And maybe this is a good one for Marty. What do we do on the BHS level? How are we making sure that we're taking care of the guy who gets his barbershop itch scratched by competition, but also taking care of the guy who just wants to go down and sing with his friends on Tuesday night?
It's a great question, and I think leveraging the coaching side of the judging experience, or the judges that are no longer remain certified, or they're emeritus or something like that. That coaching component is just it's so important for people to understand. They're more than just writing a score. In fact, the writing the score is the easier part. It's how do you motivate and inspire. And that's the shift we have to take. We used to have full-time staff people back in the 70s and 80s that they traveled the country and visited chapters. Well, that became, obsolete in the 90s and the late 80s as we reduced those expenses. And I think that's hurt us. It was a touch point. It was an inspiration. And those types of things. Those road warriors provided a purpose and a place. And so, how do we implement that again, or some form of that? The coaching industry, in a sense, within the Barbershop Harmony Society and all barbershopping has really blossomed as an independent component for those who are motivated to get better. I think it's one thing we can send out people and just blindly send them out, but if it's not a reciprocal basis, it's tough to continue to make those investments. And we're in a transition with all of that. But what I can say is, for the most part, where there has been a need for additional musical development or musical coaching or guidance, I know the one wonderful thing about barbershoppers is that they'll raise their hand and help, especially in the musical aspect. And so we found districts that have created, coaching programs for their chapters, where they have a list of 10, 20 or so that the district will fund a coach to go down and work with a chapter that might not be competing, but just give them some motivation, or improves their show that they're doing that they're producing, in their annual show or something like that. So it's a very important. We're a singing organization, so how do we inspire and make and encourage? We didn't lose our name, SPB SQSA. So that encouragement is still there. We're just doing business as, the marketing side of it all. But we still have encouragement, and I know that's the beauty, again, about all of our members. We want to give back and help out in any way we can. But it's a big piece that we have to invest again and make a more concerted effort.
And KJ, you've been involved with so many of these youth outreach programs through the foundation, and I think everybody on this panel is a barbershopper, so we know that such a huge appeal of barbershopping is that camaraderie, and I know we see that, with these young kids getting involved too, that, it's the social aspect is such a huge component. But since it's World Voice Day, let's talk about the singing. What is it about how we sing that these kids love so much these days, it seems?
Right. I think it's not just the kids. It's the music educators now. 10 years ago, if you asked a music educator or suggested a music educator to sing Barbershop in their class or talk to them about Barbershop, you might get an eye roll or a turn down look or something, and we weren't really taken serious as a choral organization not too long ago. But now we are being mentioned in the top choral organizations in the world, right alongside every other a cappella genre there is, because people now know that barbershop as a singing art form has just as much validity and has just as much to offer as the rest of the a cappella genres. And with students, there's something really exciting about what we do. We are, like you said earlier, we're the only, I can think of, we're the only music organization that you can literally walk up to 3 other people in your organization and create music right there then on the spot with a tag or a polecat. Kids have really, kids and young people have really kind of made their own, especially when you go on YouTube. You look at all these multi-tracks of tags, and you see tag videos from conventions or afterglows or tag parties or Harmony University, and so it really has become, they've gravitated to this collectivity, this camaraderie aspect of what we do, which is singing together anywhere, anytime, any place, and it's a special thing. And to know that because of that, because the kids have really seen the value in this and have just taken to it like fish to water, and because music educators and choral organizations are taking it seriously and realizing, hey, we have a lot to offer in the classroom, at their own organizations. It really is a time for us that we've never seen before. We have opportunities to do things we've never been able to do before. So I think the singing aspect of it has really been the forefront of why we've seen so much success in these programs, because singing barbershop and locking and ringing chords, it gets the blood pumping. So.
Okay, well, I think we're at the point where we're gonna. Ben, do we have some questions from some attendees ready to fire away here?
Yes, we do. I had a little hiccup in the background, so I have them on Facebook chat for you. If you can, pardon me, if you can pull that up.
Yep.
We actually have a pretty good queue going here.
All right. So we'll start with. Let's see. Make sure I have that on here.
First question's from Marty.
All right. First question for Marty. This is from Joel, and the question is the Society familiar with the National Singing Quartet Convention based in Memphis?
I'm not familiar with that, but I'm very interested. I saw some of the chats on this. I'd be very interested in learning more about them.
Okay, yeah, and Joel was asking if we had any affiliation with them or if any of the other groups did, Sweet Adelines International, Harmony Inc. So, did anybody else on the panel have any information about them?
Just a moment.
Yeah.
If I can interject for just a moment, Marty, I will put Joel in touch with you after tonight's call, just so that you can get a dialogue going to see what we can learn about this organization and how we might be able to work with them.
Great.
Okay, and question number 2, this is also from Marty. This one's from Greg, and the question is, what can we do to increase participation among people who do not identify as white? I feel our future is limited without responding to the changing demographics of America. And Marty, that you started to address this a little bit earlier. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, our first step is identify it and realize it, and I think there's a big movement and encouraging movement for that. We don't discriminate whatsoever. You get together, like JJ was just mentioning, you get 4 people and we'll sing till wee hours all day, 48 hours, 24 hours a day, type of thing. But the effort around the historical research of our art form has really inspired myself and many others to kind of encourage more of that. And I would say how we do that is not necessarily trying to change an existing chapter's demographics, but will be to start up new chapters with that mission in mind. As I've been able to travel around the various districts and I see chapters and you see, how diverse are we, and I was just in Ontario and there was one chapter there that I was like, wow, this is it. These guys, look at the the diverse, and it was just awesome. But we just kind of looked at it as another chapter coming by, which is really what it is. But I think there needs to be more effort around just starting brand new chapters up. It doesn't mean that we can't take our existing chapters and encourage, and I know there's a lot of activities out there for that is taking place. Chapter leaderships are finding opportunities to go into at-risk or underserved communities and do some Young Men in Harmony type activities. But it just takes us to take that initiative. But it's difficult for us to get out of our circle of friends and network, which might be heavily influenced into the white male organization. And so making an effort and realizing that and being more inclusive, as well as starting brand new chapters with that in mind, I think will really, really help overcome some of that challenge and some of that integration that we're very much looking forward to. We're doing an effort here in Nashville alone of expanding specifically into some areas that are not served in education at some at-risk communities. And we're seeing some of the results and learning on how to work through that, as well as teaming up with groups like El Sistema, which is the Venezuelan effort that really brought all that in, and how do we incorporate models like that. So we've got a lot to learn from others as it relates to that, but we're making some headway slowly but surely.
And question number 3, this one's from Joey, and this is for everybody on the panel. Does the panel have suggestions on local level recruitment and outreach for membership? So how to find people in his own backyard.
Well, I'll give my 2 cents. I think I'm just as guilty, if not more, than the next barbershopper. I'm a finance guy by trade, so when I go to work every day, all day, I'm not thinking barbershop, and I'm not thinking vocal harmony. That's not a part of my daily career, if you will. But that being said, I do find myself from time to time where somehow the topic comes up, and it turns out the guy sitting across from me was heavily involved with high school choirs and maybe sang in college, but nothing happened after that. And so I of course share with him or her that there is an opportunity for singing beyond college. And I sit there mildly shameful that I didn't say something sooner, but I think those people are out there in every profession, every industry, across from every table. They're there. And like I said, I'm just as guilty as the next person, but I think we just have to find the right opportunities to share that without in the proper way, of course. But I just think I think finding a way to enter the dialogue more frequently. It's amazing how many people out there love music, enjoy singing, but kind of just let it fall off of their plate after high school or college.
And I'd love to comment on that if I could. I also think that a big part of that too is the society can only do much from headquarters in downtown Nashville to impact recruitment around the rest of the country. And I think we all grasp the idea that it really is, it's grassroots. It's the chapters in the area, and I know there are kids in college who desperately want there to be a course in their area, but maybe there's not. So they have all these struggles of how can I get other kids my age or young men my age involved or interested in singing. And I think something Marty said last year or the year before, as part of the campaign of really looking out the window, is that I feel like if chapters start to look at recruitment and getting other people involved, not from a let's shout out what we have and let's hope people come and experience what we have, but how can we serve the community in which we're already in with no strings attached and put ourselves out there from a service standpoint. And I really feel like, and I think it's been proven, that when chapters do that, you get a whole lot more of attention. You get a whole lot more people really wanting to see what this thing is all about, this chapter and so, wherever. And so I think one of the biggest things that we can do as chapters, as quartets, as individuals who are trying to get more people involved is to serve. Whether that's doing sing-outs for local schools or serving local music programs in schools by setting up risers or whatever. There's a plethora of ideas, but I think serving is really going to be a key part of recruiting.
I have a couple of comments.
To that, just real quickly, is identify a project in the community, so that then, and then once you have that, then when you're talking to people, they always, what's in it for me? And when they get to hear from somebody to say, we'd love to have you do this with us, or whatever, in this project, or something like that, and it's more than just singing up on the risers. It's got to be something that is motivated, that might be different than just getting up on the risers and singing. And so identifying a project and encouraging them of what's in it for them, that's really critical, that we have to listen to their needs just as much as our own personal needs of getting up on the risers, because we need another tenor or to fill out the ranks or whatever it is, but listening to what their needs are, kind of to the point. I think there's a lot of people who would love the opportunity, but we get anxious to just get them on board. So having a project and asking them about that project and getting them to sing is another really good, simple way to identify, some of their interest and encouragement. Sorry, Marty, you were going to say.
No problem. I was just going to say we'll double team them. We're the best kept secret in our communities, and I think that if you put on a level of go out in public, sing in public, sing well in public, tell people that you're open for members, take advantage of the Christmas choir idea. You don't have to join us, just come and sing with us. When you do your singing Valentines, let people know that you are part of a chorus and you meet. Every opportunity for the group to demonstrate what they do in public and to know that people are welcome to come. The free singing lessons route, all of those things to keep a higher profile of what we do. But I really do believe that the better our singing is in public, the better ambassadors we are for people to join who really are singers. We love to have joiners, but we really want singers.
All right, we have another question this one's from John. John says, in my Pioneer District, there are some great chapters, but others that are struggling and dwindling. Can we help them? So presumably the question is how maybe can our stronger chapters help out the ones that need a little bit of helping hand?
I'll give you an example of what happened in the Sunshine District. There was a chapter that was literally getting ready to close its doors, and they kind of sent out a note to all the Sunshine chapters saying, we're making our last big show performance, but what we'd like is for any of you to help us out and participate. They had 85 guys show up from the district to sing on their show. They got together a couple hours before, and you know what that's done? That's reinvigorated that chapter. So one of the things that we have found is that the inter-chapter related activities of helping each other out, we're finding that certain chapters are combining for an annual show. And then next year they'll go to the other community, the same kind of thing, and perform there. And I'm not suggesting maybe consolidation, but you're helping each other out. We used to do this all the time. In my original chapter, we had a cookie festival, and it's actually still going on today in Iowa City. In May, and all the chapters would come for an evening of Tuesday and sharing and collaboration, because now they got 80 guys up on the risers, and that was like excitement again. And we used to do that all. I mean, how many times would a bus all of a sudden show up and everybody get on the bus and off you went? And we've missed those types of things, and I think there's opportunities. Yeah, maybe life has gotten a little faster, and we could certainly use an extra hour in the day to maybe do something like that. But the need is still out there. No matter all the social media, there's still a need for us to collaborate and sing together live. And those are ways, to help each other out, at least steps. There's small steps to just get hope back in and knowing that it's possible still. Go to a convention, sing with others like it was mentioned. Go to a convention just so that you can sing with others again for a weekend. Get reinvigorated.
A different approach is that many of these struggling chapters simply does not do not have any sort of musical leader. They're craving some sort of musical leadership, and obviously the good musical leaders are busy and don't have the time, but I will share one personal example. Long story short, I was asked to be an interim director for a struggling chapter for 2 months to get them through their show. I dedicated myself for 9 weeks. Took legitimately, they were singing about a 40 level. I made it a personal goal to get them up to a 50 level. 9 weeks later, they sang at a 50 level. They got feedback from their audience, said that's the best we've heard you sing in so many years. That chapter 3 years later went to a competition and they scored in the upper 50s. And to me, it's getting a musical leader to give a little bit of their time. Doesn't have to be a year, but just some amount of time to re-energize themselves, I think is a big deal. And you've got musical leaders in every district, not just Pioneer, but everywhere.
All right, and next question from Dan. This kind of ties in a little bit too. You know, how do we reach out to other organizations like Sweet Adelines International to encourage a better working relationship with those groups, perhaps things like joint conventions or contests?
Who wants to take that one? No, I'm kidding.
Hello, Marty.
That seems like it's for you, Marty.
Well, I'll tell you that those collaborations are certainly wanted. I attended the Harmony College Northwest a year ago in June, and saw that the collaboration there between Sweet Adelines and VHS, where there were a little over 300 attendees, and literally half and half were from both organizations. It's happening, maybe in small components. But we're seeing that. We're seeing that at our own Harmony University, our week-long, and so I guess we have a lot more in common than we have different, and maybe we just need to focus on a little more of that, on what we have in common, make that part of our daily activities. We're seeing mixed harmony now coming in some of the quartets and the mixed harmony that is taking off. Of course, Double Date won the mixed harmony, last year, or earlier this year. I forget whatever it is. I lose track of time. But I think those are opportunities. I can tell you that there are other discussions happening to be able to create some programs. We don't know what those are yet, but I certainly speak to both of the organizations on a regular basis, and we're always looking for ways to collaborate. And offer some new things. But I'll tell you, a lot of chapters collaborate on shows. They're spotty, but it's happening, and maybe we need to let people know of where these are happening so they can encourage each other.
One area in the judging system, we routinely invite affiliate organizations and Harmony Inc. organizations to attend our category school, which we have every 3 years, where we recertify all of our judges, certify new candidate judges. And last category school, we invited any Sweet Adeline judge who, even though we have different category systems, just to see what we do and how we do it. We had one. Hopefully the next school will have more. But that would we're certainly open to sharing and learning from each other. The other example, when they used to have the Buckeye International, I can recall a Harmonet article, how can we have women judges and men judges in the pit together? And I said, it's easy, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. So certainly, as Marty said, it's there in patches, but I don't think we'll ever see the day where Sweet Adelines gives up their autonomy. I don't see the day where BHS gives up their autonomy, but I do see a day where we are much closer.
Well, and on the outreach side, I can also say that you see some of the things in collaboration with like GQ and Instant Classic happening right now, where they're combining and doing and sending great messages to the field of all the outreach and that, boy, those are just great things again that are happening. It patches, but there's a willingness I guess that's the main thing. Now, probably more in other areas, but I guess if you're having challenges with that, we've got district leadership to help turn down those walls or take down those walls, and of course we're here to help in any of those kind of capacities as well.
I think one other thing is we need to accept that we don't have all the answers to everything, and that it's not just us, quotes, reaching out and taking what we're doing, but are we really open to what we can learn from other organizations? And on Barbershop Enthusiasts, Deke Sharon made a comment that some people got riled up about, but I thought it was right on. He said, sometimes we're elitist. Without really knowing for sure certain things, we have a way we do things, and that's a bit of an old style way. We started off by talking about old-time barbershop. Well, in the big world of music, it's not a competition between styles or between organizations. And if we're open to learning, people will see that we are open to learning. So I would suggest go to Sweet Adeline contests, go to Harmony Incorporated contests, and get to know what it is that they do and be willing to learn. And anytime somebody is willing to learn, I think that's the real definition of humility, and people will respond to that a lot better than some of the other ways we've tried to in the past.
All right, this question's from Sean, and the question is, how can I encourage my chapter to take a plunge and hire a new director after not paying one for 2 years? They don't think they can afford it, but they're floundering musically.
Who's going to take? I guess I'll take this one. Sure.
How about Royce?
Yeah. Again, as Kevin mentioned, there's lots of folks that can help. It's make some phone calls for people who you know are in the area. Say, hey, this is our challenge. Again, if you're able to do sing outs at a certain level, then you've got some money coming in, and then you can have someone paid. But really, again, it's never about the money in this organization. It's really about, find those folks who are willing to help out the group. And there's a lot of folks who'd say, hey, I can devote some time to assist, either on an interim basis or just kind of get the ball rolling. We're doing some of that here in the Far Western District in terms of identifying some of these chapters that are on the cusp, that have kind of have attended a contest here or there, but now have kind of dropped off. And we're kind of saying, now, why is that the case? And so again, it's a matter of identifying that. And if you're one of those groups that needs help, hey, shout it from the mountaintops. Don't be afraid to ask for some assistance from those in your area that can help.
Well, another. I've had this question many a times because our directors either came up through Barbershop and maybe not have had the professional training in musical leadership or choral conducting or music education, and there's no wrong. I mean, that's the dream. Is to someday maybe direct a frontline chorus. And we're advocates for that. But at the same time, there are a lot of people out there that take leadership as a professional career. And I would say that probably 9 times out of 10, if you hire a good, strong musical leader, that the revenue will come in increased ticket sales because you're singing better, the enthusiasm, all that kind of thing. Will begin to occur, and that pride will start to enter in, and you'll grow because of that. The challenge and the hurdle is that initial investment, but it is an investment that will pay if it works and you commit to it. It's a two-way street. That it will pay off in dividends, but you got to make that initial investment. So I encourage that gentleman who asked the question to, strategize. If you need some help on all that. Maybe that might be a great innovation grant that you should apply to help overcome that hurdle. And you could easily supply for that and say, I need some help with this, to help this because it's going to help my community. It's going to help get more people singing in my community and all that, but I need that $1,000 for the next 2 years or whatever it is, to help get that musical leadership. So we're inspired every week to come back and ring a chord better than we did the week before.
And if I may, one of the biggest things that's happening right now in this partnership with ACDA and getting more and more music educators on fire for what our society has to offer and what our music has to offer. Chapters that have taken the plunge, if you will, and hired or brought in a music educator from their community to direct their chorus. It's incredible to see what's happened. And one story that I'll share quickly because I think it's very applicable to this. I visited a chapter out west who was struggling. They had lost their director several months before. Numbers were down. They wanted to do a show in the fall and just didn't think they were going to be able to pull it off. But they had gone to the local schools and built relationships with some of the music educators and asked one of them if they would consider coming to direct their barbershop chorus. And this was a woman in her late 20s who said, you know what, okay, sure, I'll come. I've never listened to barbershop. I've never directed barbershop. I've never sung barbershop, but I have a degree in music education. I direct a high school choir, so sure, I'll come and try this out. And it just so happened her first night there was a night I was coming to visit the chapter for Harmony Foundation. So I got to watch this little dance that happened on her first night, and she stood in front of the chorus on her first time, and she was going to direct Lullaby by Billy Joel. And she started directing, and it was just complete meter, nothing, no interpretation, no rubato, anything. And the guys were trying to follow her, and they were just clashing into each other, and neither of them knew what each other was doing. And we were all giggling about it because it was her first time doing it. And she came back and sat with me, and we talked a little, and she's like, I am terrified. I don't know what the heck I'm doing up there. And we talked a little bit, and we sent some emails back and forth and just kind of gave her some encouragement. 3 months later, I went to the convention in that area, and I walked into the auditorium, and I heard this chorus doing this huge uptune, and it was just energized and I looked in, and I'm like, wow, this chorus is killing it. And they had this front row, and there was all this choreo, and the singing was tight. And I looked, and there's this director all decked out in this, flashy outfit, and they hold the last note, and she turns around, and it's that same woman. And it's this incredible barbershop chorus. The singing is through the roof. They're killing it. She's engaged. They're following her, and I'm the only one in the auditorium. So as soon as they finish, I start clapping and cheering, and I walk up on stage, and they all recognize me. I said, "Do you guys even recognize who this is?" And they laughed because she was a completely different director. She was a different musician, different person, and it changed her. It changed that chorus. It changed her music program. She said she already had a few barbershop quartets from her boys' group in her school now because of that. And it was just this combination of missions that everybody won, and it all started because they reached out to a music educator because they were going to die. That chapter was going down. And a music educator who'd never sung barbershop before took a chance, stepped out, and got involved. And now they're killing it. So anyway, I think that story applies.
And now we'll likely pass barbershop along to a ton of more students over the next few years. And
exactly.
Good work, KJ.
I didn't do it. That's the whole goal.
All right, well, we are winding down to the end here. Got one more question from Joey. He wanted to know for each of you who recruited you into barbershop, who first introduced you to it, and in the interest of time, if you want to give just kind of the 140-character version, and then each of you can come on the Gold Medal Moments podcast and tell the full version of it. So let's start with you, Kevin.
Well, actually, I had seen barbershop quartets on Andy Williams and Jackie Gleason show, so I had seen barbershop. I knew what it was. I liked it. Didn't know the organization existed. I mentioned it to my dad one time that I liked barbershop, and he said, "Oh, well, there's a barbershop chorus here in town." Well, it turns out that he was in a carpool, and this guy had been hounding him for years to be a member of the chorus, so he pawned me off.
All right, KJ?
I was 14 or 15 years old. I was in a musical called Paint Your Wagon, and I was this little freckled kid cast as Julio Federico Juan Valenzuela Valvarez. And this little old couple, after rehearsal one day, approached me and invited me to come to a tag party they were having, and they handed me sheet music to Mary Lou, and it was my first time singing Barbershop, and from then on they were like my Barbershop parents, and I sang in a mixed quartet with them called Freckles and His Friends, and we had a blast. They're the ones. And Alan, Jean, Druin, they're probably not listening, but they're the ones who got me involved.
All right, Marty Lovick.
Well, I just before my 17th birthday, which was in August, my mother read in the local paper about this chorus, and said you might be interested in that. And these were the 60s. I was into rhythm and blues, Beach Boys, did a lot of singing, had done church singing, didn't know what I wanted to do. I went down to this chapter and I loved it. And there were 17 guys, and they all should have been the chapter secretary. Hardly anybody could sing. And we were dead last in our first contest the next spring. But that was 50 years ago. And so it's all my mother, God rest her soul, saw it and knew I would be interested, and she put the bug in my ear. And that's it.
All right, Marty Monson.
I'm a second-generation barbershop, so I blame my parents, and of course the Music Man and 3 great friends in high school, and then that continued on into college as I was that same quartet ended up being a quartet for Six Flags in St. Louis, and we ran into the Gas House Gang, and we were so inspired, that continued to kind of progress as to what it is today. So a lot of great influencers.
And Royce.
I wanted to hear Sid's story.
Okay, Sid, you go first.
Thought we were going down the list.
So, I had mentioned earlier that fraternity and family was a really big part of this whole organization for me, and that's probably largely because my story really did start there. I grew up with my dad singing in a quartet, and I remember as long ago as I can, I remember them singing this quartet together, and his quartet, their wives, their kids, it truly became a second family to us. We would go to conventions together. We've got memories of driving in a motor home down to the New Orleans convention in '92. Some really crazy stories about this quartet kind of operating as a family. And I've been fortunate enough that 3 of the guys in my dad's quartet, including my dad, are fathers to 3 of the guys in Stormfront. So Darren Drown and Jim Clark and myself, we've known each other my whole life. Darren tells a story about how he remembers me. He remembers the time when I was born. He had been 9 or 10 at the time, but we really were. We were together as kids, as a whole family, the whole time, and so that's always been a part of my thing. And branching out that family fraternity is one of my most favorite things about this organization.
Very cool. All right, and now, Mr. Ferguson.
Well, I was very fortunate. My mom was a piano teacher, and so she was very influential in terms of she was also singing with a Sweet Adeline group there in town and saw some of the local performances. But for some reason there was a disconnect in terms of I didn't realize there was a Barbershop Harmony Society at all until I was actually a friend of mine in high school was really gung-ho about singing in this quartet, and he had this thing going, and there happened to be this one performance where their tenor got sick, and I wasn't even a singer. I was playing bass and bands and keyboards, so I was totally away from Barbershop. They said, hey, we need you for this gig. So I jumped in and sang it, and then I remember when we were singing together that we were blaming one of the other guys for singing a wrong note, but it happened we didn't know anything about the overtones. And as soon as that just blew our minds that we were actually able to create this kind of amazing sound that we just couldn't find anywhere else. And so we started singing the stuff together, and I remember getting a cassette tape of Second Edition from one of the guys from the Sun Harbor Chorus, and then that just kind of got out of hand from there. And then they actually had one of the guys actually paid for our membership for a year to come and join the chapter as a quartet. And so that's how we got in, and it's been a great ride ever since.
Yeah, the second edition cassette has that effect on people.
Yeah. But all it took was that one guy making that one effort, that made such a huge difference in my life. So I'm very grateful.
All right, well, we are about out of time, so I want to thank you guys for including me and letting me be a part of this. I'm going to throw it back to our organizer, Mr. Ben Harding, to wrap everything up.
Awesome. Thanks, Toby.
All right, and before we end this call, I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking time out of your Thursday night to talk to us. Thank you for the great answers, and Toby, thank you for keeping things moving with really smooth moderation. So I also do want to say a quick thank you to everyone that showed up and submitted questions. Great questions, and I know there are many more. So in the next day or so, we're going to have a replay available both in video format, and then a little later we'll have a recording of just the audio from this call so that you can spread the love of Barbershop around. So keep an eye out for that. And one last thing before we go, because this is World Voice Day, and it's a celebration of just using our voices, the most beautiful instrument that we have. So I encourage you to go see what World Voice Day is all about. They have a website, world-voice-day.org, and you can see all of the different things, the different events that have gone on today to celebrate. So you can see that we are part of this global picture of people that are really passionate about just getting people to enjoy singing. So thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to the panel one more time. And get out there and sing, guys.
Amen.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks.